Hayward Podworks. 100 shows, one vision.
Our sources explain it all. For more information on upcoming shows or to suggest shows, email brianhayward2026@gmail.com. And now let's get into our show. Hayward Podworks is vision, deep dives into any topic.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at just one source. It's called Success Principles. 10 Golden Rules to Greatness.
Right.
And our mission here is to give you, the listener, a real shortcut to understanding what it actually costs to achieve something genuine and lasting. We're not just reading a list.
No.
We're digging into the psychological price tag.
And that's so important because the source is very clear right from the start. Success isn't simple. It's not for everyone. It comes at a cost, a big one. It demands a total personal transformation. Yeah. I mean, to really take these rules on board, you have to actively drop old habits, you have to build new ones, and you have to commit a huge amount of effort. Unrelenting effort. The rules are the map, but you have to bring the fuel.
Okay, let's unpack that high investment. Let's start at the very beginning with Rule 1. Set big goals.
Yeah.
The message here seems to be that aiming high is always the better strategy.
It is.
Even if you don't quite make it to the very top.
It's a fundamental difference in your internal calibration. Think about it. If you aim low, say, you aim for 50% on a project, your effort will naturally just plateau there.
Right. You hit 50% and you're done.
Exactly. You've capped your own potential. But if you aim for 90%, even if you only hit 80%, well, that 80% is just so much more valuable than the 50 you aimed for and got. Aiming low just, it confines you.
I wonder, though, if you aim too high, especially if you're just starting out, couldn't that lead to just, immediate burnout? Is there a guardrail for that?
There is, and it's by tying the goal to a really strong emotional anchor. The goals have to be purpose-driven. They can't just be these weak habits like a New Year's resolution that's forgotten by February.
Right.
If your goal doesn't have a deep why, the effort just isn't sustainable. The source uses this powerful example of, say, an obese person who gets a serious medical warning. You're on the verge of a heart attack or diabetes.
Wow. Okay, that's a non-negotiable why? You don't skip the gym if the stakes are that high.
Precisely. That person isn't motivated by self-improvement anymore. It's self-preservation. It's life or death. So for the rest of us, the real challenge is finding a purpose that feels just as non-negotiable.
And to make sure you're actually productive, Rule 1 also insists on a time frame. This is what creates that sense of urgency.
Yes.
You give yourself a year for a 1-month task. We all know what happens. Parkinson's law kicks in.
Oh, absolutely. The work just expands to fill the time. You give yourself 24 hours for something and your focus is sharp, you're productive. Give yourself a week for that same task and you'll probably start on the last day. But, and this is a key point, the time frame has to be realistic. The source warns against delusion. You can't, for example, aim to lose 10 kilos in 3 days. It's just not possible, no matter how strong your why is.
So urgent but realistic. Got it. Now let's shift from the external goals to the internal mindset. Rule 8 is all about words of success.
Right, and this is more than just think positive. This is about cognitive science. The words you use are like tools that build your belief system.
How so?
Well, think about a negative remark someone made to you years ago. It can create this little seed of insecurity that lasts forever. But on the other hand, positive reinforcement, especially from someone you see as an authority, like a doctor, that can actually speed up your recovery.
So the practical takeaway for you listening is to consciously use more I can rather than I can't. It's about reprogramming your own self-talk.
And it's about action. When you say, I can, you're giving yourself permission to try, to take a risk, But if you say, I can't, you're stopping the journey before it even starts. You're creating this internal conflict. If you believe I'm a disciplined person, but then say, I can't do this, your brain has to resolve that conflict. So it either gives up or makes an excuse. But if you keep saying, I can figure this out, your behavior has to align with that belief.
That's a really powerful link between language and action. Okay, let's move into execution. Part 2 is about turning all this into reality, starting with Rule 2. Make real decisions. And it stresses making smart decisions.
Deliberate decisions, yeah. Not rushing into things. The moving house example is a good one. You have to evaluate the rent, the commute, the size.
The data points.
The data points, exactly. But it's also about opportunity cost. A real decision isn't just picking option A. It's picking A and fully accepting that you're giving up B, C, and D. You have to be okay with losing the alternative.
And once you've made that smart choice, the source says you have to act. Carry out your decisions immediately.
Immediately. That gap between deciding and starting, that's where momentum goes to die. If you decide to quit smoking, that first hour, that first craving is everything.
So you can't delay.
Any delay lets doubt creep in, and that leads to the hardest part of this rule. Don't look back. Once you've committed, you have to be ready for the pushback.
The toxic influences.
Yeah, people trying to pull you back to your old ways.
That sounds really harsh, though. I mean, how do you just cut people off? Especially if they're, family or coworkers you have to see.
It acknowledges the difficulty. It's not always about completely severing ties. Sometimes it's about realigning your boundaries. You have to remember your why.
Right.
And you use that as a shield. You just say, look, I'm saving for this car, so I have to skip our expensive weekly dinner. The boundary protects the goal. Sometimes, though, a clean break is the only way forward.
So if decisions are the spark, what keeps the fire going? That brings us to Rule 3. Consistency is key.
And here, commitment and perseverance basically become the definition of success. Consistency isn't about being perfect every single day.
It's about showing up.
It's about showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. Think of a programmer debugging code. They try something, it fails, they learn, they try again and again and again. Without that persistence, the project just sits there, incomplete.
To support that, you need a routine for success, a structure. The source says that a good routine is what makes hard work actually pay off. A professional musician doesn't just practice when they're inspired.
No, it's a regimen, and that routine is how you build good habits. It's how you choose discipline over your mood. On any given night, you could binge watch a show or you could study. The habit is what makes you choose the thing that serves your future self.
And tracking your progress helps with that.
It's crucial. Weekly weigh-ins, daily word counts, whatever it is. It gives you objective proof that you're moving forward, and it keeps you motivated.
Okay, let's move on to Rule 5, which feels like the glue holding all this together. Be accountable. It starts with taking responsibility. That old line, right? With great power comes great responsibility. Mature people don't make excuses.
And accountability really has to start with yourself. You need a personal mission statement. Write it down, make it your phone's wallpaper, whatever, and then check your actions against it.
So with the car example.
With the car example, self-accountability means you look at your income, you figure out honestly what you can cut back on, and then you actually do it, no matter what temptations come up.
And you have to be honest about the results. So if you don't save the money in 12 months, you can't blame the economy.
Exactly. You have to ask yourself, why? Did I overspend? Was my initial plan flawed? Mistakes are only useful if you own them. That's why the source also says to have a plan B, not as an excuse, but as a way to correct your course.
So accountability is about analysis, turning every outcome into data.
Yes. It keeps your goals tied to reality, not just wishful thinking.
That idea of analyzing results, especially the bad ones, is a perfect transition to part 3, growth and resilience. Starting with maybe the most radical idea, Rule 10, there's no such thing as failure.
This is a tough one for a lot of people. It's a huge mental shift. The source defines failure as just a temporary lack of a skill at that specific moment in time.
So rejection isn't a verdict on you as a person.
It's just feedback, neutral feedback. A toddler doesn't quit learning to walk because the floor rejected them. They use the fall as data to adjust their balance.
And that reframes failures as stepping stones for success. We always hear about Thomas Edison. He didn't see 10,000 failures.
No, he saw 10,000 ways that didn't work. It was necessary research. Michael Jordan always talked about all the shots he missed, the games he lost. That's what built the championships.
Right.
The core belief really is this. As long as you learn from the experience, it's a success. Strive for progress, not perfection. You only truly fail if you quit. It's like that Tony Robbins quote, "There's no such thing as failure, there are only results."
So to keep going, you need Rule 4. Nothing is impossible, which means you have to actively condition the mind to think positive. When J.K. Rowling was getting rejected or Michael Jordan got cut from his team, their comeback wasn't an accident.
It was a conscious choice. They chose to believe it was still possible, but you also have to learn to take a blow. You need a plan for when things go really wrong. A project collapses, you lose funding.
So what do?
The source suggests keeping a gratitude journal. And I know that can sound a bit fluffy, but it's a real psychological tool. When you're overwhelmed, forcing yourself to focus on what you do have shifts your entire state of mind. It allows you to pivot instead of despair.
All of this constant learning and pivoting leads us to Rule 9. Be a lifelong learner. Learning doesn't stop when you leave school.
Not at all. It's a continuous process of evolution. The source actually breaks it down into 3 types. There's maintenance learning, just keeping up in your field. Then there's growth learning, adding new skills.
Okay.
But the one that's most powerful and the one most people ignore is shock learning.
Shock learning. What's a good example of that?
It's having to unlearn something you thought was a fundamental truth. For an athlete, it could be totally changing their golf swing after 20 years. For a scientist, it might be a new discovery that makes their old model obsolete. You have to be willing to discard what you know. Stubbornness is the enemy here.
Before we wrap up, we should touch on Rule 6 and 7, which kind of support this whole structure. Rule 6 is living in the moment, basically mindfulness.
If you're with your family but you're thinking about work emails, you're not really there. That time is lost. Mindfulness focuses your effort where you are.
And that allows you to practice gratitude for the small things.
Exactly. Savoring a small win, a good cup of coffee, it builds these little positive loops that make the daily grind feel meaningful instead of just living for some distant future goal.
And finally, Rule 7, be adventurous, which connects right back to learning. Growth only happens when you step out of your comfort zone.
For sure. If you always take the easy, convenient path, you never build the skills to handle friction or uncertainty. Adventure is about prioritizing experience over stability.
It builds character.
It absolutely builds character. It's the willingness to face the unexpected that prepares you for the big challenges in life.
What a roadmap. I mean, we've gone from setting these huge purpose-driven goals all the way to discipline, accountability, and reframing failure. The formula itself seems straightforward.
It is, in theory, but it requires constant, intentional effort.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it all comes back to that very first point. The commitment to these rules is what guarantees success. But nothing, none of the habits, none of the learning, none of it will stick unless you find that one compelling, deeply personal one.
That's what gets you through the hard parts.
That's what overrides your desire for comfort. It's what makes you keep going.
So for you, the learner, As you think about these 10 rules and get ready to put in the work,
Yeah.
what is that one foundational why that you're going to write down today? The one that's so powerful, it makes sure you just won't stop trying.
Hayward Podworks. 100 shows, one vision.
All right, this is Hayward Podworks, and that's today's episode. If this helped you, do me a favor, hit follow, leave a quick rating, and share it with one person who'd get value. Want the extras, links, and new drops? Check the show notes. Until next time, stay sharp, stay consistent, and keep building. Hayward Podworks. We'll talk soon.